hello to everyone on the call, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for allowing us to showcase the Royce. So really what today is about is demystifying retirement and aged care. We've been in Penrith for we've been developing for about 3-4 years. We opened a year ago. So, but what I wanted to bring to the team want to bring to you today is really some discussion and insight into retirement and aged care, and it may not be how you see it. So, first of all, I would like to introduce the team. So myself, I'm the marketing manager here at the Royce and with the Tulich Group. I will then be handing over, and we'll go through just a few things. I will then hand over to Bay Valenzuela of the Royce Manor. Bay has a company called Bay Aged Care and works very closely with us. It has for many years. We will then follow that with an insight into retirement living at the Royce, and that will be Maria Carew, who is our sales manager, will run through that with you. And then we will hand over to Robert Craven, who works very closely with us and a lot of our clients, and we'll run through a little bit around the financial options. And he's from Altera's Financial Group. And then we'll proceed with the wrap up, and Simon will then kick over to you for a Q&A. One of the things I wanted to talk about just quickly, and you may not be aware, is we have a cafe here at the Royce. It's independently run by a local chef you may or may not have heard of in the Penrith area. His name's Ross Dobson. He's written 11 cookbooks, travelled extensively all over the world, and has returned home to Penrith. And one of the things he's famous for here is, and you may be aware, is he was the founder and owner of Cafe Lures, The Union, and Vincent in Glenbrook. He is very well known, quite well connected, and we are so lucky to have him here. He cooks a lot of homemade cakes and pastries and lunches basically, and breakfast for our residents, but also for the general public. So we get a lot of people coming in just to have lunch, drop in, say hello, and have a look around while they're here. So it's a new initiative, and in the industry it's something quite new, where we are able to do that, but also and have the local community coming in. Another thing we're going to be doing also very shortly is getting an independent hairdresser and beauty therapist, which and they'll bring their own clients, and the outside public will be able to come in and take care of that. He's open 5 days a week at this stage, Monday to Friday. He used to be open weekends, but with COVID sort of pushed back a little bit. The plan is that we will open up again. And he does cooking classes, all sorts of great things. So stay tuned for some information on that. He can also book for small groups up to 30 at the moment, only because of social distancing requirements. And we're just about to launch a menu, a bit of a promotion, having tapas on Fridays to begin in September and October, so tapas afternoons. And once he gets his liquor license, it'll be a fun place to be. Okay, Bay, I'd just like to hand over to you now, just to talk a little bit about the Manor and aged care.
Thank you very much, Janelle. I love how you tried to pronounce my surname. Good try.
Sorry.
It's Valenzuela, similar to the country Venezuela. The amount of people that try and pronounce it is great to see. So off the bat, I'll try and make this as interesting as possible I can. With aged care, it's quite complex, and I've been told I've been given 10 minutes. I'll try and condense that. As well. So I've been in the aged care industry, just a bit of a background for myself, for the last 30 years now. Don't let my looks fool you. I've got a good plastic surgeon, and it's all been in aged care. I love it and I'm passionate about it, and I could talk on and on about it, but as I said, we'll stick to the 10 minutes. it's quite complicated, aged care, and trying to get where we start from. It's a crisis time. So I will make that very clear. No one books to go into aged care. There's no one books into a head and say, I'd like to go into aged care today. No, normally, predominantly about 100% of the time, I get families quite distressed coming to Maria or myself saying, look, something's happened. There's a crisis at home where mum or dad may have had a fall. And then that's where all emotions get in place. So the more we can educate the public and the families about it, they can prepare ahead in advance. The first and foremost is really about, we've always, especially around the toolage, we always focus on the residents, or the Department of Health calls them the consumer, but we're old fashioned. We like to call them the resident. Excuse me. So basically, if there's a need where the residents, something's happened at home, as I said to you, they've had a fall, they can't look after themselves in terms of independence. They can't attend to their ADLs, maintain their social activities due to their age as well. So then they go to the doctor. Sometimes the doctor can refer them to a social worker or the My Aged Care page. Janelle, can you pull up that page? There we got it.
That one?
Yes, yeah, that's the one. So basically, once you get referred to this, it's really the My Aged Care portal. So the Department of Health is really pushing for that. It's the first point of contact. So if you go to the doctor or you go to your friends, it's always go back to the My Aged Care portal. The families can get in there. There's a link there that you can get referred to. The social worker will actually come out and do an assessment. It's a face-to-face, but given it's COVID, I've noticed that a lot of time they actually do that via Zoom or Teams or over the phone. Particularly elderly residents, technology like myself is quite challenging, and they'll do that over the phone. Sometimes they will get assessed when the residents are in hospital because of, say, a fall or a decrease in their condition. The social worker will then decide whether the resident is able to have home care, and they'll then to have residential care. So I deal predominantly with residential care, which is the aged care, respite care, and as well as permanent care. And that's what's been offered at the Royce. Respite care is exactly what it says. It's respite. It's respite for the carers. All residents, if are eligible for respite care, they're entitled to 63 days of care in any facilities, given that the facility will accept. And then there's permanent care. And as permanent, it's really, they can come in permanent. I did read an article this morning. A lot of people think permanent care is like a jail, that once you get in, you can't get out. That's actually not true. Permanent care means that there's a separate funding altogether, but should a resident want to leave at any time, that's not a problem as well. They can leave. We've got a few, I know, at the Royce that they come in quite deteriorating in their condition. We are working with them to get them back to full capacity, and then the wife would like to take them home so that they could be at home with them, and where they live in the ILUs. And Marie can talk more about that. Next slide, Janelle. Thank you. Then what happens next? They get this piece of paper that says, yep, you're allowed to go into aged care. And then they go, okay, what do I do? Where do I start? And it's a question is, how long is a piece of string? There's so many homes out there. And what I say to the family is this: what is it that mum or dad or your loved one is looking for? Then to go to those facilities, making sure your needs, not just your physical needs or your healthcare needs, but particularly around your emotional, spiritual. If those homes that resonates with you, then that's what they and to feel as well. Difficult in this day and age as well with COVID, because I know a lot of homes don't tend to have tours, because that means that the public will then go into the aged care home. COVID, it's a new world, whereas we have the luxury at the Royce where we have a dedicated wing up the top we can get open, and I know Maria does quite a lot of tours up there. It depends on what the family's looking for. Then there's the cost of aged care. Everybody talks about how much is it going to be, if mum or dad going to lose their home. And I'll certainly leave it to Robert Craven to elaborate more on it during his slides. But basically the cost is their daily care fee. And the daily care fee is equivalent to 82 or 83% of the single aged care pension. So currently at the moment it's $52.25 per day. So if you're getting an aged care pension, that should cover your daily care fee. A lot of families ask me, what does that mean? What does that cover? Well, it basically covers all their care, meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It'll cover all their medical supplies, medical needs, as well, cleaning, laundry, physio. So the list is quite extensive for that. And again, I said, I'll leave it to Robert to elaborate on the cost of it. Once the family go, yep, you know what, this is the home, this suits mum and dad, the cost is quite affordable, then it goes to, sits to the facility manager, or the good old days, the Don or the matron. We develop a care plan with the family and agree on an admission date, and basically that's it. They then come in, and it's ongoing. When a lot of the perception, particularly I've noticed the Royce recently in the last admissions, the last batch of admissions that we've done, Maria, is that families think that aged care homes are like the good old days where you have 4-bedded to 6-bedded with 1 or 2 toilets. That's not. This is 2020, and as you can see, some of the pictures of the Royce and the Toolish site, all of them actually are single rooms with ensuite. They come in pleasantly surprised. We have a hairdresser on site. We have podiatrists. We have a physio that's full time. That's just not for the Royce. That's certainly all of our Toolish sites, which goes from Dubbo all the way to Wollongong. We have doctors. We have more than doctors we have more than one doctors. And we try to keep the doctors all locally as well. So we've got quite a few numbers of doctors from the Penrith area. And then we also have a lifestyle officer that's 7 days a week that purely deals with not the care aspect, but there's the spiritual, the emotional, the psychological aspects of the residents. Moving into a facility can be quite daunting for the resident, not just for the families. I know my mum is in care. She's been in care for the last 4 years, and as a relative sitting on the other side, we found it very daunting, and the guilt that we had to go through, that, you know, we should be looking after her at home. And a lot of families go through that guilt as well. So our lifestyle officer and our team will try and make that transition as smooth as possible, because we understand it's not an easy task to do. They go from this big house to this room with a bedroom. So that transition is quite difficult. So it takes the resident on roughly about 2 to 3 weeks to settle down. We offer respite just to try and see how they go. And then once they settle down, we would then transition, as said, over to permanent as well. That's pretty much about aged care, really. We can try, I know at the Royce Centre, particularly at Toolage, we make this process as seamlessly as possible so that it takes the stress out of it. As I said to you earlier, it is a crisis time. When family comes in to us, they're not booking in for a holiday, they're booking in for the next stage, and that acceptance is mum and dad can no longer care for them. And then there's multiple family members. They all have different opinions as well. Most importantly, what I do recommend to families is that, has anybody got power of attorney or enduring guardian? So that is one person or 1 or 2 person that the facility and the hospitals and the health team can talk to. I know from my experience, I have 13 brothers and sisters. So the poor facility has to talk to every single one of us, and we all have different opinions. So we decide as a family, I'm going to be power of attorney and enduring guardian, and then I decipher the information over to the family. And that's the same thing that we try and encourage, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of siblings that may not get on as well as an adult when they were younger. So that's the if I was to give any advice tip, I would be start having that conversation with mum and dad now, in case what happens when you get to this stage. How would you like to, what would your care look like, and how would you like to or who would you like to assist you with that as well? I think that's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you, Bay. And apologies about your surname. That's a moment one. Okay. All right, Maria, I would like to hand over to you now, just to go through the retirement living.
Hi, everyone. As Janelle mentioned, I'm the sales manager at the Royce. I work with Bay in aged care, as well as looking after the sales for both stage 1 and stage 2. So I'm not sure who in Penrith knows where we're located, but we're right next door pretty much to the Mercure Hotel and the Panthers. And if you haven't been here, when you enter, you see you see a pretty much a very luxurious entryway that is gives you the feeling of a home, but of a hotel as well. And that's what we're trying to offer here at the Royce. What it is it's a seamless place where you move into independent living. And if and when you need that aged care, we're able to give people choices. But the most important thing is that they're living in a community that they can age with similar people, but also know where they're going on their journey into the next stage. And I think the unique difference with our village is that we can offer that continuum of care in a very luxurious environment, and also in a very safe community. We've got 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments throughout both stages. Stage 1 opened last year, and we've sold 95% of those apartments, which is fantastic. And stage 2 opens officially next week. And there are 81 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. And what's nice about it is the residents, it's their home. They can have a pet. They can enjoy all the facilities, go down and have a coffee, enjoy the gymnasium. We've got rooftop terraces, which allows the residents to get out of their apartment if they want to be in a bit of a garden environment where there are communal barbecues. We have a new community hall for our residents that has just opened up, which includes a library, an honesty bar. As Janelle mentioned, we've got our hairdresser, beauty therapist, and we have physios, podiatrists. They're all on the one site. So it becomes a real community of people who are enjoying the facilities. And I always tell people when they're looking into retirement, it's never a good, for most people, they think they want to stay in their home forever. And one of the things that I have found over the many years that I have been doing this is that most people don't want to move, but when they finally make that move, they say, I don't know why I didn't do it earlier, because retirement is all about you not having to worry about maintaining your home, doing the gardens, worrying about your if there was a crack in the wall, or if my washing machine breaks down. We take care of all of those things. And on top of that, what's really important is that we also offer a 7-day concierge. So what that means is, a bit like a hotel, when you visit a hotel, there's always somebody at the front desk, and that front desk person is the one that will coordinate your mail, organize maintenance people, help you shop online, deliver your dry cleaning, drive you to the shops if you need it. It is a hotel, but it allows people, once they age comfortably in their home, in their independent living home, if things become difficult, then we can help them before they need to make, or if they need to make a transition into aged care. Yeah. So next slide, Janelle, I think. Yeah. So the apartments, just people have, it's been really interesting for me, because Penrith, a lot of people go, gosh, it's an apartment. And I know that there are a lot of apartments being built in Penrith at the moment, especially around the station area. And it has been a bit different for the Penrith and surrounding areas, because most people who are moving to the Royce have come from a home, and quite either acreage or 3, 4, 5 bedroom homes, 2 bathrooms, and there's been people are surprised when they walk into an apartment that the ceilings are high. It's very modern. The kitchen appliances are all top of the range. There's Caesar stone. There's views. There's balconies. And obviously, depending on what your budget is, you can be in the penthouse, or you can have 1 or 2 bedroom on the ground floor if that's what you prefer. It's over 6 floors. And some of the apartments face the mountains, some of them face north, some of them face into an internal courtyard, and the prices really vary. And so I think what we're finding at the moment is that we're getting really a good variety of people that have come from land, or people who've just lived in South Penrith and are just wanting to feel that they're in a community central to all the major amenities, but also feel that they can develop new friendships and also hobbies and skills, and know that they're being looked after. We've got, as I mentioned to you, our 7-day-week concierge, a full-time maintenance person. We have our full-time village manager, and we also have a care facility manager. And there's some pictures of our apartments with views. I'm sorry, I'm not following the slides. I'm just talking off the top of my head. Sorry, guys. I'm no good with rules and regulations. But I mean, I think the pictures really speak for themselves. It's modern, it's contemporary, but what's really important is that everything's been designed so that if you are ever in a wheelchair, or if you ever need emergency support, everything is in the apartment, which will allow you, even if you're in a wheelchair or if you need emergency help, it's all there in that apartment. And even if you can stay in your own home, it is a very expensive thing to make everything accessible when you age, and you need to think about those sorts of things as you do age, that you can manage your own home. And just quickly, probably one of the biggest things that people love, especially if you're a couple, is that if you do move together into our beautiful apartments and live very independently and enjoy the social life and all the mod cons in our apartments, if one of those residents' family needs to move into aged care, we will help you transition very easily and smoothly. So in a way, the Royce really offers a one-stop shop with you know, a luxury apartment and hotel facilities, and lots of interesting places to visit within the whole complex. So that's what we have to offer.
Thank you, Maria. And just adding on that, it really, I sort of like it too. It is, you start your retirement journey with us, and you know, you go through the different stages, and it's there when you need it. So we really see that as our difference. Okay, Robert, over to you.
Thank you, Janelle. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rob Craven. I'm a financial planner for the last 40 plus years. For the last 10, I've specialised in aged care and retirement village work with Centrelink, Department of Veterans Affairs. I've now got 7 advisors, full-time advisors, that do nothing but aged care and retirement village work. So we're quite a large team. Next slide, please, Janelle. Just by way of introduction, the ageing population, we read about it so much and hear about it so much from the governments, but they've done some forward estimates to 2054, which is 35 years away. And they said the number of 65-year-olds in Australia is going to double over the next 35 years. If we go back a little bit further, when I left school, there were 80,000 people over the age of 85. In 35 years, they estimate there's going to be 2 million. And the really frightening thing for governments is that, once again, when I left school, there were 7 of us supporting one grandparent that had retired, but there will be less than 3 going forward. And the reason I put this up, if you've got a business, we're talking to the Chamber of Commerce, just think of where the population is going, and where you need to advertise, where you need to think about your future buyers, because there is the population is aging quite quickly. Thanks, Janelle. the government's response is that more and more going forward, you are going to be needing to pay for things that you want as your age. The government is saying it is just impossible. With 80,000, we could handle it. With 2 million, where people are going to have to put their hands in their pocket. And people are being encouraged to remain home or in a retirement village longer. Basically what we say to people, there is a high probability that somebody that moves into a retirement village will never need to move to residential aged care. You can get home care packages delivered. You can get help into the retirement village. And unless the care needs are very, very high, there's a good chance that you will be able to stay with that community. And even if you do need to move to residential aged care, that support is going to be there, the closeness is going to be there, the community that you've been with for the last few years is going to be there. Age pensions, incidentally, currently 66 before you get a pension. That is going out to 67 if you're born after 1957. There's a good possibility for the younger people in the community, it's going to be the age of 70 before you get a pension. So compulsory superannuation and being able to look after yourself. Next one, thanks, Janelle. One of the really interesting things, if somebody that's looking to move into a retirement village, and I'm talking more about retirement villages here than aged care, I'll just cover that very briefly at the end. But for a retirement village, when you downsize, quite often the reason for downsizing is to release some capital. So you sell a home for 800,000, you move into a retirement village for 600,000 or 700,000. Sell a home for $1 million, move in for 800,000. That you are now allowed, regardless of your age, providing you've owned the home for 10 years, you can put up to 300,000 into a superannuation fund, even if you're not working. And if it's a couple, you can put 300,000 each. And quite often this gives a huge benefit for people that are concerned. One of the big objections we get to moving into a retirement village is, oh, I'm going to lose my pension. And my response is, for goodness sake, moving into a retirement village is all about quality of life. It's a lifestyle decision. Why would you put off having 10, 15, 20 years of vibrant lifestyle with a community that you've got so much in common with, that the knock on the door, hey, we're going down to the movies, there's a new movie, do you want to hop in the bus and come down with us? Nobody's forcing it, but there is something going on all the time. And the Twillich family have a tradition of being involved, of being part of the community. They go out of their way to make sure that their residents become part of the Twillich community, retirement community. And this putting off moving because it's going to impact your pension, quite often with a little bit of advice, we can get over that hurdle for you. Next one, thanks. Just giving you a little story, sorry, and again, that's just the pretty picture, but that's out of the Royce, one of the rooms in the Royce. It's a beautiful, it really is a lovely, lovely environment to go into. Every time I walk in there, I go, ah. And I think Maria's working on me to get me to sell and move in as well. Next slide. This is just an example of Ted and Shirley, both age 74. And I think Maria mentioned the biggest complaint we ever get, or the biggest thing that we hear when we talk to people in retirement village, got any regrets? What are your regrets about moving into the retirement village? And the one that comes probably 95% of the time, we should have done it earlier. We left it 2 years too late. We should have done it earlier. So we've got 74-year-olds, ideal age to think about moving into a community. They're looking at purchasing a retirement village unit for 600,000 in this example. And I've been chastised because I should have put up at the beginning of the slides, please don't act on this without getting personal financial advice. This is of a general nature. So please consider it said. But a home for 875,000, 225,000 in cash, term deposits and superannuation, 25 in motor vehicles and contents. So they're a millionaire couple. And if I had have told this couple they were going to be millionaires 10 years ago, they would have had me certified. But this is a typical working class family these days because of the value of the real estate. They're full pensioners and they're nearly $40,000 a year. So $1 million to the bank, $40,000 a year. And next slide, thanks. And what happens if they simply move and put the, sorry, can I get rid of that? If they simply move and put the additional money in a term deposit, so they had an $875,000 home, they're now moving into a $600,000 retirement village villa. Their cash goes up from $225,000 to $500,000, and same scenario, they've simply put less money into the house and more money into their bank. And the impact of that on the next slide is that their pension will drop from $37,000 to $27,000, and the money they get in the term deposit and the bank doesn't go up by the same amount. So in this scenario, they're going to take a drop in income of $6,800 a year, and they'll need to spend some of their capital to maintain the same scenario. Next slide. If we said, well, instead of doing that, what about we put $150,000 each into that downsized superannuation contribution and then turn it into an income stream? We can purchase 2 funeral bonds. Centrelink don't just ignore the money going into a funeral bond. We can currently put $13,500 in, and they gift up to $10,000 a year in a financial year, $30,000 over 5 consecutive years. Centrelink ignore that. So simply by, instead of putting all the money into the term deposit, we put some into superannuation, buy a couple of funeral bonds, make a gift. Next slide. What happens is that the $875,000 home is still a $600,000 retirement villa. We've got about as much cash, or a little bit less than we had before, but still a substantial cash buffer. We've got 2 funeral bonds, but we've now got $300,000 in that downsizer superannuation contribution. So we're $10,000 given to the grandkids. Okay, and next slide. So what we've done here is increase the income from $39,000 to $46,000 by getting some advice. Next slide. Respite care, very, very quickly, just covering the aged care. I think this has already been covered anyway, but eligibility, 63 days a year if you have an ACAT, if you have approval. And the only cost of that is $52.25 a day, about a third of what it costs to go to an aged care facility, to go to the local motel. Next slide. So when you move into the aged care facility, you'll either be a rent payer or having to pay a bond, or you'll be fully supported. It's very, very complex. The former home, the way it's treated differently for aged care. If you decide to keep the home, people say to me, do you have to sell the home if I move into residential aged care? The answer to that is simply, no, you do not. So get some advice, give us a call. You're very welcome to call. The final slide that we've got is, there are our very good looking team of advisors. You're very welcome to ring either myself or any one of those advisors. Maria has the number, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Robert. That's fantastic. So basically, I wanted to ask you, if you wanted to come and have a look, you know, you're welcome to obviously call Maria or call myself here at the Royce. We'll be more than happy to show you around. But I just wanted to open it up now and just sort of say, was any of that stuff that people knew? I'd just love to gauge some feedback actually around if that's changed your view on retirement and aged care.
And does anybody have questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in with any questions that you've got.
I just wanted to, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yep.
Oh, hi. I was going to say, hello, Maria. Maria's been dealing with my mum who moved into the Royce next Friday. and it's been an amazing experience, and it really has opened my eyes up to aged care and what it can do for your family, because my mum is so happy and so excited. I've never seen her just so happy before. So we're really, really looking forward to it. And I think it can be a scary prospect, but Maria and her team have just been amazing, and it's been a really wonderful experience for all of us. So it's been really good. I'll see you next week, Maria, on moving day.
And Kelly, can we ask roughly how old your parents are?
My father passed away 11 years ago, so it's just my mum, and she's 76. Yep. So she was actually living with her mum as well, who was 96 and passed away last July. And she heavily relies on my husband and I to help her out with just different things. I mean, she's quite able-bodied, but just different things because she's never been by herself before. And selfishly, she'd been saying to me she wanted to move, and I'd been a bit putting it off just for the actual act of moving. And it has been a big, big project, you know, clearing out all of their stuff. She's got a big home and just doing all of that stuff. But honestly, to see my mum so happy, I actually feel a bit guilty that we left it so long. But yeah, it's been a really good experience.
And I'll just say, look, and that's my experience, is that it's the fear of the unknown, but as they become more and more comfortable and visit, and they see their apartment and they see the services, they just get really excited and think, gosh, you know, I can get rid of that family home we've got memories, but I'm ready to make new memories, and I'm going to not be alone. And I think living in a community is what it's about.
And I think too, sorry.
Yeah. You're right. I was just going to say, like, she's just reinvigorated. She's bought some new furniture. She's just saying, well, this doesn't fit my unit now. And she's just really, really excited. So
a new lease of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrific, Kelly. It's really good to hear that that feedback from somebody who's kind of already involved in the program. Development. Now, what other questions have we got?
None in the chat boxes yet. If anyone wants to just unmute themselves and ask away, that's fine. But Simon, did you want to go through some stuff?
So there was, so my parents are kind of getting, you know, to that point. Robert, you mentioned that there's a small daily cost, which was $52 something per day, plus then an additional daily fee, which you didn't kind of outline what that additional daily fee is or what that looks like. How much is that, and how's it calculated?
So this is residential aged care. Residential aged care has 4 basic fees. Mm-hmm. There's the basic daily care fee, which is 85% of the single age pension. Mm-hmm. It's currently $52.25 a day. Then, depending on your circumstances, so sometimes quite wealthy residents can be assessed as fully supported because the home, if a protected person, if a spouse is living at home, it doesn't count. Then they then look at the other assets. If those assets are less than about $350,000, the government pays 95% of everything. you go in as a supported resident. But assuming that you go in as a RAD, that bond is set by the facility, and you get the choice. So let's say it's a $550,000 room in the Royce that you're moving into. You get the choice of paying a lump sum of $550,000, or you can rent the room, and the rental is set at a percentage of the lump sum. It's currently 4.1%. You divide that by 365 to give you the daily amount. Then the other fee is a means tested care fee, and that is assessed on your ability to pay. And the facility is going to get a subsidy from the government called the ACFI, the Aged Care Funding Instrument, typically about $185, $200 a day. And the co-contribution, the means tested care fee, if you're a wealthy person, you have to contribute to that. The government's percentage comes down and your percentage goes up. From the facility's point of view, they're going to get that money to look after you anyway. So it's a whole yeah, I could run a seminar, and very welcome, you know, if you would like me to one day run a seminar for the people in your, you know, in the chamber. More than happy to do it just on this, but it's a half an hour to sort of go through in detail how it's calculated. But absolutely, if anybody owns a home in Sydney, they can go into any aged care facility in Sydney, and it is affordable. Simply because the government, as the money, as your ability to pay goes down, the government's contribution goes up. It's a very compassionate society that we live in. A lot better than America, in my opinion. Australia's got a lot going for it.
And Robert, with that, it obviously is very specific to each individual circumstance.
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
Where price comes in. But can the aged care facility provide that type of guidance?
The aged care facility will normally give you a general overview and then refer you to a specialist advisor to actually calculate for you and help you work through the system of what's required. But invariably, it's yeah, as stated previously, it's a crisis situation. Very few people go into residential aged care by choice. There comes, the needs are so high. It's all panic, mixed emotions. I promised Mum I'd never do this. So getting some advice at that stage, just to hold their hand through the system. But doesn't matter who you are or where you are in Australia, if you need residential aged care, it is affordable, because if you haven't got the funds to do it yourself, the government will step in. And if looking at the way it's done by the Tulich community, the Tulich family, they've been doing it for a long, long time. And, you know, time and time again, I just put my hand to my chest and say, wow, you know, they do it so well.
That's great. Thanks, Robert.
Simon, there is a question here on the chat. Richard asked a question: how old are your youngest residents?
Yeah, I tried to answer that, but I'm no good at.
I think you did. I think you did answer that.
No, they answered that regarding aged care.
They answered it.
Retirement, you have to be 55 and over, and the youngest resident living in our retirement village at the moment is 59.
Right.
We actually have quite a young group of residents here in our retirement. We've stage 1 opened a year ago, and we've got a group of about 45 to 50 residents, I believe. And, you know, they are a very vibrant group. They get together, they're very social.
Where's the sub 50s option for people who want activities and shopping and a built-in handyman? Come on,
Simon, we won't have to wait.
I'm ready.
We don't have to wait too long, Simon. We might start planning our. We might start looking around and doing some tours.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's named after, it's the Royce, but it's named after Royce Simmons, who's obviously a local identity in Penrith. And he's actually moving in himself, and his wife. So he's really putting his
next Monday, in fact.
Yes, right. So so expect to see more and more of that out there.
Terrific.
And when we get out of COVID, we'll have to have you all here. So yeah,
sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our allotted time anyway. So if there aren't any more questions, I would just really like to say, Janelle, Maria, Bay, Robert, thank you guys for your time and for enlightening us. I'm sure, whilst not everybody probably put their hand up to say I've learnt something, I'm sure most of us have learnt something from today. So we really appreciate you running through all of that with us, and we'll definitely send out the replay. And for anybody who thinks of questions later on, feel free to send them through to Stacey at the Chamber, and we'll pass them on to the team from the Royce. So if there's nothing else, guys, we'll say thank you, and we might wrap up today's Lunch and Learn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody.
And thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.